Hello, I'm Colin Green, and you are listening to Spike Pit episode 58. This is going to be an episode following up from Spike Pit and Son's Hogwarts episode. I want to talk about the listener feedback and throw around some of my thoughts regarding playing with younger DMs.
Hey Colin, it's Logan from Swordbreaker. How awesome is it to have your own live-in GM? I hope we'll hear more actual plays from you in the future.
Hi, Arfid here. It was great to hear from a young GM on the latest podcast. Not sure I'd be able to play in that game. It sounds a bit scary for me. All those dragons and monsters flying about. I don't think the life expectancy of a character is too long in that, but there was plenty of strong NPCs that were backing you up, so you might be okay. But great knowledge of the world and the characters, which I think adds a lot to any GM's arsenal of skills and storytelling, etc. So it sounded like you had great fun. Would have loved to have been able to been in the room and seen some of the more theatrical parts of it, but yeah, sounded like it was a great time.
Thank you, Logan and Arfed, for your valuable feedback. It's always good to hear what listeners think, and I did get additional feedback on the Audio Dungeon Discord channel. And on the whole, it would seem the actual play episode went down pretty well, despite its length. I'm conscious of it being over 60 minutes long, especially as I'm not that much of an AP consumer myself. However, it was, I thought, pretty entertaining, so I decided to leave it mostly in its entirety. What I'd like to discuss today is some of my thoughts that came about having listened back to the episode, and I wanted to address perhaps some of the differences that you're going to run into when you've got a younger DM running a game. Now, obviously, this is going to vary because we're all individuals, and it's no different for the youngsters. But the first thing that I noticed during this game is the very dynamic style of my son. Now, if you think you're going to sit down at a table and just kind of calmly play the game, that is not going to happen. Well, not in his case. He was all over the place. At the minute he sat down, he got up. The minute he got up, he sat down. And as soon as an NPC or a monster would arrive on the scene, he's gesticulating wildly with his arms. His face becomes the mask of another creature. So facial expressions, and you may have noticed he was changing his voice a little bit, and even throwing in sound effects and stuff like that. So it's a very active style of refereeing. Now, in addition to this, because he's very immersed in the Harry Potter world and the world of Hogwarts, he's able to sort of leverage that knowledge to provide lots and lots of description. He can answer pretty much any question you throw at him. And I was really impressed with his mastery of the lore. Much like Arfed said, he really does. He does know his subject, and I think as we get older, that's something that I would really struggle to do, even in settings that I'm really familiar with. So he totally dispenses, well, not totally, but to a large extent, dispenses with the need to flick through books or even make much in the way of notes. He does, however, keep a a DM's journal, and he puts his ideas in there. He does little drawings, he makes maps, all manner of things, but it all goes into his journal. Basically, I think that's because that's what his dad does. So I keep a journal. He's seen me do that, and I have encouraged him that is one way to do it. Whether he'll stay doing it like that remains to be seen. The other thing that I think is worthy of note is, although this would perhaps not come over in the podcast very well, it's a very visual business for him. He takes a lot of inspiration from the resources that I've put in front of him. So he's got the books, and then the collection of Hogwarts Library is very rich in images and illustrations. It's very inspirational material, and he often talks about it outside of the game. Talks about things like his favourite drawing in this book or his favourite illustration in that book. And it did crop up during the podcast when he was talking about the dragons, and we were looking at an image there, and that was, I was trying to talk to him a little bit about artwork and the fact that these are artists that have a particular style, and I try and fold in a little bit of the kind of culture of RPGs, and I get out older books and newer books, and we look at art styles and stuff like that, and it's all part of getting him a little bit immersed in the hobby, so that when he talks to his friends, or maybe he goes to a con or something like that, he can feel like he understands what's going on around him a little bit. But sources wise, he also draws on the films and all the visuals from the films. So I've no doubt that when he's describing something, he's either playing back something that he's seen in a book, read in a book, or something that he's seen in the film. And having those resources is invaluable, I think. And if you're thinking of running a game with some kids, perhaps you could pick a subject that they're really into. I mean, it could be virtually anything. You can make a game out of anything. One of the things I'm looking at the moment is to get my little girl into gaming perhaps a little bit more. She likes quite enjoys Hero Kids, but I'd like to put a bit of a mouse guard spin on it, and she's really into animals, and she loves her cats and her furry creatures, and I'm gonna maybe go down that tack with my little girl. So choosing your inspirational material and your on-ramp is very important, I think.
Hey Colin, it's Cody. I was listening to your episode you did with your son where you guys were playing Harry Potter while I'm out doing some errands. I'm about 20 minutes in, and I'm enjoying it so far. I think it's super cool that you've given your son all of these resources, these books that are not necessarily D&D related, and he's sort of creating his own Appendix N and using those to influence the game that he runs. I think that's super awesome. Initially, I had a bunch of suggestions I had written down. I was like, oh, maybe you could do things this way, but you know what? I'm not gonna give them. I think it's super cool that he's just coming up with his own stuff on the fly, and you guys are having a good time, and that's all that matters, man. Anyway, keep it up, and I look forward to the rest of the episode. I will talk to you later, sir. Bye-bye.
So thanks for taking the time to call in, Cody. I think a couple of the things you say there are very pertinent to the topic at hand. Firstly, you're echoing my thoughts on the resources. I did purposefully try and supply some additional resources once I knew that he was looking to run a Hogwarts sort of game. I felt that it could fall flat for him if he was relying on the 5e stuff from Wizards, and he was already making his own stuff up and looking in the books, and I thought the monster book and some of the tales and the lore from the Harry Potter universe would be ideal sources of inspiration. And this moves on to the other thing you was saying about, oh, you know, you could maybe do this, you could maybe do that, and you decided to hold back with that. And that's exactly what I'm suggesting now. Is if you're running with a youngster as a DM, you've got to resist the urge to try and enforce your own style on them. And I tell you, that is not easy. You want to maybe use a little bit of guidance and be there in a kind of almost semi co-DM or supporting role while still being a player. So when he's reading something, and I think there's perhaps he looks like he's doesn't quite understand something. There was during that actual play, the episode, there was a couple of words that he was struggling with, and I just kind of questioned him and explained a couple of things so that, you know, he knows for next time round. On the whole, I've been very impressed though with his comprehension of the books. And I mean, like I said, I haven't read them all myself. I think I read the first one. I've listened to a couple of audio books, and yeah. Not only do I take a back seat, but I also think it's important that the rules and rule books take a back seat. Any mechanisms that we use tend to be super fast and super simple. At the very start, we talked about, well, how much 5e is there actually in the game is running, and I think we all know that there's not a huge amount. The main thing is he's using character generation to a certain extent. We modify that. That's pretty much made up on the fly. Well, not on the fly, but during character creation, it's a conversation. We go through the standard procedures for 5e character creation, but where something doesn't seem appropriate, or we need some equipment that you know is not listed, and this is all resolved through looking at the fiction, looking at the setting, and making some common sense decisions about things that he knows about, or things that perhaps I can offer into the mix, you know, just my own ideas. The core thing that he does use is this idea of setting a difficulty rating, so a DC, and then rolling over it. So we just keep that roll over mechanic, keep the things like opposed rolls that he understands, and then we just say under certain circumstances there's going to be advantage or disadvantage, and that one sort of suite of mechanisms is enough to get you through pretty much everything you need. There's this situation, you need this role to achieve it, and is it going to be a bit harder or a bit more difficult? You know, it's perfect. So I wouldn't be afraid to just hack 5e. We all know it's pretty modular, and you can just lift out one mechanism like that and away you go. Also, it's interesting that he doesn't rely on stats and stat blocks. So he looks at that monster book, he looks at the picture, he gets something coming up in his mind, and then he just runs with it. I asked him about stats, and really he's not that interested. He's just making it up on the fly, and you know, it's fun, it happens. What more can you say? That's what we're looking for. And I would say in closing, the biggest takeaway for me, it's because I've done these things before, but just going through the process of recording it and then listening back, what really struck me was the fact that you just got to go with the flow. It's totally just sit back, relax, just try and have some fun, go with the flow. If you think your help is needed, just a little bit of advice, or just you can voice your opinion, but just go light with it, not heavy-handed. Just make it like a suggestion and a conversation, and I think it should work out well. So I would encourage anybody out there who's gaming with kids, get them into running some adventures. It can be simple. It doesn't need to be an hour long. It could be 10, 15 minutes, or just sit and make up a character and just say, if you was to run an adventure, what about if I made up a character and then we could play a game that you run, and and just address any concerns they've got. And as I see it, that's about it. There we go then. That brings us to near the close of another episode. I'd like to thank everybody for listening. I'd also like to thank the folks that called in, Logan, Cody and Arfed. Thanks for your valuable feedback, and your thoughts and ideas as ever are always welcome. I'd also value the thoughts of others, anybody that's played with a younger GM and has got any observations to add to the stuff I've already said. Just give us a call in on Anchor and I'll include it in a future show. That's it. Take care, look after yourselves, and speak to you soon.